service. Rather than do a formal sermon, what I chose to do was to discuss a little bit more about what the service is really all about, what the sections and the specific pieces are. We start out with Shalom Aleichem. That is not a psalm. It's not in the Tanakh, the Bible. It's none of the holy books. Anyone know what it really is? It's a poem, pure and simple. And it was a poem written somewhere in the 13, 14, 1500s. We're not sure exactly when because there's a question mark about the timing. There's actually a controversy. We know who wrote it. But there's no agreement on who really wrote it. We have 4 names attached to it. And they're in different time periods. It's a poem that talks about the angels of the Sabbath. And it comes from a midrash where there's angels that visit every household. One good angel, one bad angel. And if they see people inside observing Sabbath, the good angel says, and so may it be next week. And if they see people inside not observing the Shabbos, the bad angel says, and so may it be next week. And the Shalom Aleichem is that reminder of, we have angels around us. And we should be welcoming them with the Sabbath. Let's see, page 722. And I know there's a book around here someplace. Does anyone have problems hearing me when I'm down there? Yes. That's a yes? Okay. I will warn you now, I like to move around and be down there because I don't like being up here all the time. I believe the rabbi is not... How do I put this? It's not the same as the priest, or in many cases the minister. The rabbi is the one who has the knowledge that is supposed to lead the congregation and help you with that knowledge. But that doesn't mean the rabbi is on that exalted plane where cannot be questioned or kept separate from everyone. He should be with you, or she should be with you. So occasionally I will be down there, and if you don't hear me, or you have trouble hearing me when I go down, please just raise a hand, and don't be shy about it. I won't take it poorly. I'll understand. 722. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharetz, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Vachuni L'Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Page 254. So I got a question for you, and this is not rhetorical. What is the composition of Kabbalah Shabbat supposed to be? I mentioned the first thing we often do is Shalom Aleichem. It's not a psalm. So what's the idea of Kabbalah Shabbat? It's welcoming the Sabbath. It is a symbolic concept. There's supposed to be 6 songs, psalms, pieces. By the way, Lachadodi is also not a psalm. One representing each day of the week. And the idea is that as you sing each one, you drop the cares of that day behind you as you enter Sabbath. So that when you get to Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, you're ready to truly be joyous and be elevated on a different level. For those of you who have studied a little bit of other religions and meditation-oriented religions such as Buddhism, the meditation is supposed to get you ready to come to that place of elevation. For us, Kabbalah Shabbat, it's those 6 pieces that serve to meditate and bring us to a higher plane, to let the cares go. This is also why when somebody's in mourning, they come in at the end of the Chadodi and don't come in for the earlier parts. Because if you're in the period of mourning when you've just lost somebody that week, you're not going to be able to be elevated up here. And we're told you're not supposed to do something that has no value to start with. If it's Lashav, you don't waste the time. You don't do it for in vain. You do it with purpose behind it. So let's turn to Lechuna Ranana. And I need somebody to start this one because I want to know what melody you use. I'm going to do this with most of these because many different melodies are out there. So, do I volunteer? Okay. Nena lechuneran nena lechuneran nena latonai lechuneran nena lechuneran nena lechuneran nena latonai naria naria letzor yishenu yekad ma'fanam letodah naria naria letzor yishenu Bismirot naria lo lechuneran nena lechuneran nena lechuneran nena latonai lechuneran nena lechuneran nena lechuneran nena latonai ki Adonai melech gadol Elohim Rabbi Shanak lekadol V'yomayin to'ay levavim V'hem lo yilu darachai Hashem mishpati v'yahi V'givon yom menuchati 254 in the middle. Shiru l'Adonai Shiru shir chadash Shiru l'Adonai kol ha'aretz Shiru l'Adonai Shiru shir chadash Shiru l'Adonai kol ha'aretz Shiru l'Adonai baruch shemo V'asumei yom le'yom yeshuato Shiru l'Adonai baruch shemo V'asumei yom yeshuato Ya la 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 Ya la 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 ya la 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 Ya la 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 ya la 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 Ya la 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 ya la 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 If you will turn the page, we're going to continue with this particular song. 4 lines from the bottom on the top. So 5th line down. Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yeramayam, 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 umelo, Yeramayam, 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 umelo, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, Yismechu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yalo sadai v'kol asher bo ajranu kol hatzeyar. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz yishpot tevel b'tzedek v'yamin v'emunato. The next psalm, Psalm 97, on page 256, has a very famous Hollywood antecedents at this point. How many of you saw Frisco Kid with Gene Wilder? I see 1 hand, 2 hands. That's it? 3 or 4? Okay. Guys, if you've never seen it, find it and watch it. It is a riot. It is funny. At one point, Gene Wilder is with the Indians, and they're feeding him peyote. For those who don't know, that's a hallucinogenic mushroom. And at that point, the Indian chief turns to him and says, "Do you people sing and dance?" And Gene Wilder is a rabbi. coming from Poland on his way to San Francisco. He says, of course. So he turns to one of the Indians and says, give me a beat on the tom-tom. So I'm going to have you all do the beat on the tom-tom right now. You ready? All right? Do a beat. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai v'hodu l'zecher chadsho. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai v'hodu l'zecher chadsho. You know, in the movie, he has them start going faster and faster, or they do it on him. And he ends up passing out. We won't do that tonight. We'll go on to the next one. And this is one of my favorites because a colleague of mine who is deaf and has difficulty hearing anything. About 18, 19 years ago, Danny decided to create an American Sign Language alternative for Hebrew prayer, because a lot of the concepts don't translate well into the American Sign Language. So we're going to turn to page 258. We're going to be doing the last 3 lines. And this is going to be Jewish calisthenics. You ready? I'm going to go slow. Let me down here for it. And I'm going to tell you right now, in my last congregation, my 90-plus-year-olds did better than my younger families because they seemed to follow and focus more completely on what we were doing. Whereas the younger ones kept saying, wait. If you focus and you follow, you get it. It's not that hard. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lecha kadsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lecha kadsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. So do you have an idea of why we do this? Why is it important to include something like this in the Shabbat service? Anybody? Inclusivity. Besides keeping you awake. Inclusivity. To make the statement that everyone is welcome. If you can't hear, not a problem. If you're blind, we'll help. If you can't walk, we'll help. We want all to be there and all to be included. And it's important to remind ourselves sometimes that, not everyone is as blessed with all the facilities that we have. With all the faculties. To make sure that we are inclusive at all times, to make sure that we reach out, that we make a point of doing so, I believe is important. And so I like to include this one with the sign language as a statement. You ready to try it? We're going to start slow, and it starts slow, but then it speeds up after you do one time. And each time is supposed to speed up. We're not going to go real fast tonight. By the way, just so you know, Romemu comes from the American Sign Language of giving praise. One of the ways you clap in American Sign Language, you don't actually clap, this is applause. So you're giving praise. Adonai, Eloheinu, our God, is taken exactly from American Sign Language, no difference. So let's start. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lecha kadsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu Lecha Kadsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. You ready? Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Vehishtachavu Lechar Kadsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Vehishtachavu Lechar Kadsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Now imagine for just a moment that we keep speeding up as we do that one. That's when it gets to be fun. We are turning to page 260. There are two main melodies for this one out there, so I'm not sure which one you're using, the Karl Bach or the more traditional, older one. Is the Karl Bach. Which one are you using? Anybody?
What's the other one?
Exactly.
That's the one. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai b'hadar, Kol Adonai shaber arazim, V'yishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, V'yarkidem kemo egel, Lebanon v'sirion kemo ben reheimim, Kol Adonai chotzev la'amoshesh, Kol Adonai yachel midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yechol el ayalot, Vayechesov yarot, Uvechalot kulo omer kavod, Adonai lemabul yahasha, Vayeshev Adonai melech yolam, Adonai os liyam lo yitein, Adonai yevaharech et amo v'shalom. You all know the melody for Lachadodi, Lachadodi, Likrat Kala, right?
Right.
How many of you think of that as the traditional melody? How many of you are aware it actually comes from the beer gardens of Germany? I'm serious. Think about it. Put in your mind for just a moment, beer stein in hand. Lechadodi, Likrat Kala. That's exactly where it comes from. There were others before that, and there's a lot of others today. Lechadodi, Likrat Kala. Lechadodi, Likrat Kala. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Ishmi'anu el hamichad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'liti la 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 la, Lechadodi, Likrat Kala, P'nei Shabbat Mekabela, Lechadodi, Likrat Kala, P'nei Shabbat Mekabela, Likrat Shabbat leRuben echad, Ki mekor ha'bracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tehi la 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 la, Chadodi, Likrat Kala, P'nei Shabbat Mekabela, Lechadodi, Likrat Kala, P'nei Shabbat Mekabela. Question: is your minhag custom do every verse, or do you skip to the last two? First two and last two?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. So we're going to do that in a moment. But we're going to see for a moment. One of my favorite stories. Gentleman gets up. Time for the Shema, and somebody says, "What's the custom? Do we stand for the Shema?" And several people yell yes, and several people yell no. Well, do we sit for the Shema? And several people yell yes, several people yell no. They finally turn to the rabbi. Rabbi, so what's the custom? The rabbi says, that's the custom. We argue about it. Tonight we won't argue. We'll go to the last one. Yaminu small tifrotzi, v'yet Adonai taritzi, ayalish ben partzi, v'nismecha penaki l'chadoti, v'krat kala, p'nei shabbat kabbalah, l'chadoti, v'krat kala, p'nei shabbat kabbalah, l'chadoti, v'krat kala, P'nei Shabbat Kabbalah, L'chadoti kala, P'nei Shabbat Kabbalah, Boi b'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'v'tzahala, Tov emuneam segula, Boi chala, l'chadoti, l'krat kala, P'nei Shabbat Kabbalah, 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 L'chadoti, l'krat kala, P'nei Shabbat Kabbalah. You may be seated. Anyone know what that song is really celebrating? What's a kala?
A bride.
A bride. So if the Sabbath is the bride, who's the groom? Somebody said it. We are. We're celebrating our wedding with the Sabbath. And we're welcoming the Sabbath with open arms and hearts. And it's supposed to be with joy. It's okay to move. Let's face it, if you got married and then you didn't feel like dancing, your bride might get a little upset with you, right? You're supposed to feel that joy and let it move you. There's a congregation in the Upper West Side, Manhattan, which started doing this, and they now have lines of dancing around when they hit this part. And it's amazing because you've got people in walkers, wheelchairs, young people helping them move, and they've got a line dance going around during the L'chadoti. This was a congregation that was almost dead. They had less than 150 families. They were getting ready to close the doors. And something revived them. And now, on a Friday night, almost any time during the year when you go to BJ, B'nai Jeshurun, you will see 1,000 to 2,000 people celebrating Shabbat there, and they're all moving. No one's just sitting. They're literally feeling Shabbat. And that's what I want you to do. I don't know if you're aware of it. We're about to start the actual Shabbat. The rabbi said that if you go through a service and nothing changes inside of you, you wasted your time. If you just sit there and nothing makes an impact upon you, there's a part of you that was never here. I already hit it once. Give me time, I'll hit it at least 3 more times, April, minimum. I have yet to set my kippah on fire. You notice I didn't say hair for a good reason. I used to have hair. My niece likes to tease me about that part. So on this Shabbat, I really hope that you will take something with you as you leave the sanctuary. Something of the joy of Shabbat, something maybe new knowledge that you didn't have before that makes a difference in the way you look at something within Judaism. My personal philosophy, every tradition in Judaism has a purpose and a meaning, and when we fail to understand what that purpose and meaning is, we take it down a notch. We diminish it. And I think we've done too much of that as a community. And I don't mean Lakeland, I mean America. I think we need to start bringing it up a notch or two and start adding. Not too many years ago, I was on the March of the Living, and several of my students looked at me and said, "Rabbi, this has made us want to be Jewish." And I said, "Really, why?" When we see how much others tried to kill us and torture us, and we want to make a statement that they're not going to win. And I said, "Great. Still not a good reason. If that's the only reason you want to be Jewish, we're in trouble." I said, "I want you to all think about something. This past week, somebody passed away who was a great spokesman for the survivors of the Holocaust, of the Shoah. Anyone know who that was? Elie Wiesel. Elie Wiesel had one absolute. He says, if you want to be Jewish because of the Shoah, we're dead. You have to be Jewish because of the strength and the values that we got to be able to survive the Shoah. And you don't get that without understanding the rituals, without understanding what the purposes were, what the meanings were. How do you get the joy of Simchas Torah if all you do is see people dancing around with a parchment scroll? Doesn't work for me. There's got to be more understanding to it. There's got to be more to it across the board. So, at this time, you gave me a list of the honors and I put it down someplace.